We have been painting for 2 days with our demonstrator tonight, Stan Kurth. You see him here? Actually, no.
He saw us and left?
He what?
He saw us and left?
He saw us and left. No, he's sitting in the audience. And he will come up here and he will demonstrate for you. We have had a great time. I think for many of us, it's really busting out of what our normal comfort zone is. And everybody that I can see so far has put their own stamp on it. They've taken the techniques and the results, I think, are really pretty remarkable. And so I think you'll enjoy his process. It's different than anything I've ever done, maybe for yourself as well, and the way in which he employs watercolor and gouache. So I welcome Stan. It's your turn to come on up here now. And spin around.
Okay, hello. I'm going to sit down. A lot of times I stand, but I'm really tired because I've been doing standing and talking a lot today. First off, all of those paintings over there are looking for a good home, and they're only $225. So, wouldn't you like to be a proud parent? Carol, I apologize. I'm not going to do tonight what I did today because it's sequential. You have to really do the first day in order to understand what I did today in the workshop. So if you didn't sign up and take the workshop, too bad. Carol, I hope everything went good today.
What?
I hope everything went well today. Good. Okay, so I'm an intuitive painter, and I'm not quite sure what that means. So I have my own definition, and I think a lot of painters do. The simple definition of intuitive painting is, I don't know what it's going to be in the end. It'll be something like those things over there. You know, I don't know if it's going to be a polar bear with fireflies or Godzilla or whatever those other things are. But I'm having fun doing it, and I think I'm striving for this aesthetic, my personal aesthetic, that I will never achieve, but I know it's out there. I know the work that I do, and it's evolved and it's changed because I've been painting since I was 4 years old. I've gone through lots of different stages. But we, as painters, we all have that. There's something about the paintings we like that we see. There's a reason why we like them. And they all of this aesthetic that is our own personal aesthetic has to do with the combination of elements and principles of design and how they're used in the paintings that we look and like and see, and we strive to make that happen in our own paintings. When I quit painting for other people and started painting for myself, I am a much better painter. I'm having fun doing it. I'm not stressing out about it anymore. Although I do stay up late and I do have bad paintings. Some of those have been around for a long time. And don't you feel sorry for a couple of them? Eventually, if they're too long, I'll take them out of the mat and I'll replace them with something else and I'll work on them. But anything that's in my house or in my possession is not finished. Okay, that's the best way I can describe my process. It's ongoing. My life is very similar. It's changing all the time, and nothing's really permanent. I start paintings by making marks, and they're primarily arbitrary. They weren't today, but there's a reason for that, Carol, and I'll explain more to you tomorrow. Next time I'm here, the rest of you can find out, or Carol can fill you in.
Is that a Sharpie?
What?
Is that a marker?
It's a
Pencil?
precise Pilot Precise V7. This one, they make a V5 too, and I think this one is getting low on ink.
What are you thinking of when you put those shapes in there?
Pardon?
What are you thinking of when you put those in their distinct shapes?
I'm not really. The thoughts are kind of rapid fire. I couldn't tell you all of them, what I'm thinking, because I have to talk and draw and do these and make, motor movements at the same time. I have a tendency to make similar shapes, which I call my personal archetypes. And these are things that I've been doing since I was a kid. I drew a lot of cars throughout the years. So you'll see a lot of fender shapes, grills, hoods. I used to draw a lot of dragsters and stuff like that in high school. So, valve cover, sitting on top of the heads, right? Exhaust. GMC 671 blower. Fuel injection, scoop, butterflies. I haven't done this in a long time. It's kind of a So what I'm doing when I do this arbitrary mark making, except for this, I don't know what that looks like, a 350, judging by that valve cover. I'm making a library of elements, which I can use to my liking as I wish, as I move towards the end of the painting. Right now I'm creating texture, right? What other elements are in here?
Maybe some form.
Shape? Any value? Values? There's white paper, that's a value. The black lines.
Is that an indelible pen or a watercolor?
A what?
Is that, I noticed up your wet finger up in the corner smeared the paint.
When it's not quite dry, it's very water soluble. And I used to do a lot of drawings with it, and I'd be licking my fingers and smudging, and and then I got to thinking, where the heck does this come from, and what's it made out of? It's probably Chinese, and what are they putting in this ink? So I started using the.
Can I ask you again what was the exact name of that pen?
It's a Pilot Precise V5. 5 and V7. I get them at the grocery store. I mean, anywhere where they have the racks of pens and stuff. And you know, I don't know if it's, I don't really care if, you know, how archival permanent. It's black ink. I mean, if you look in those, you're not going to see a whole lot of this, but I have to do a lot of it, so I have a choice. A selection. This is a resist crayon, paraffin. So you kind of know what's going to happen when the watercolor hits this, right?
When you're filling this space, are you giving conscious thought to a focal point yet?
I think focal points suck. If they come about with my paintings, well, a happy accident. But I don't concentrate on focal points. I mean, some of them are so cliche, you know, like the two people holding hands in the silhouetted skyscraper sunrise or whatever. You know, come on. There's a focal point right there. See, your eye goes right to it. Where's the focal point in Jackson Pollock's work? You do focal points, Todd? You do focal points?
No,
Yeah.
I probably do, but don't realize I do.
Yeah, that's me too. So I've got too much resist down now, so it's going to be a disaster that I'll have to solve. They didn't used to have all this fancy decor. I don't know when that came about. They used to be black. I guess they needed to sell more or something, so they have the Native American motif. This is art graph.
Say again.
Graphite.
Art graph. Can you read that? Probably not. And it is. Oh, don't fall over.
So what are you painting on here? It's kind of a board?
What's that?
What are you painting on?
It's a fluid watercolor block, 140-pound cold press. I like it. I like to work on squares. When I paint on larger substrates, it's usually squares. It's a Derwent watercolor pencil.
Do you find your mood determines what shapes you're making?
Sometimes, yeah. Yeah. I didn't bring them, but I do a lot of, during the workshop, I do a lot of little paintings in a sketchbook, which you can see on my website. And they go way back. And I'm more relaxed when I do those. They have kind of a different feel, I think. So I've already introduced some color. That's green, isn't it? I failed my induction physical, so I didn't have to go to NOM. But when I took it, I scored a perfect score in the colorblind test, and the guy who administered the test said that that's rare, because I could see those green and blue dots next to each other that were of the same value, you know, and they're kind of pulsing a little bit. Actually, I think there were fish and I don't know, whatever. So when I was 4 years old, I did my first oil painting, and I've been painting and drawing ever since. And I've had struggles with trying to determine whether or not it was viable to do that. Does that look okay? Not me.
It's fine.
That.
We can see it. Fine.
Okay. So, but I knew when I was 4 years old, when I did that painting, that this is what I wanted to do. My aunt was an artist, and my aunt and my mother were sisters and very, very close. So they spent a lot of time together. They always even lived close together, even when we moved. I remember we made a major move back in the early 60s, and my aunt and her family moved right next door to us, well, behind us, sort of. But there was a gate on the fence between us, so we go back and forth to each other's house. But when I was very young, and when my aunt being the artist that she was, she would had her studio in her living room. And I can still, right now, smell Damar varnish, linseed oil, and turpentine. And I really love those smells, I still do. I like to sniff them. Not to get high, just because I just like the smell of that. And I think it's because of the association with that art that she was doing. And she was doing realistic stuff, and I was just blown away. You know, like this, I remember this one canvas she had on an easel in her living room was a cowboy around a campfire and his horse and that coffee pot, that blue thing with the speckles on it, you know, and it was steaming and the fire was glowing, and you know, it was just so cool. That just got me going, so that's when I painted that first one. What?
Do you have any of their artwork still?
Do I what?
The mother, the aunt, do you have any of their artwork?
Do I have any of hers?
Yeah.
No, I don't. And that, I don't know what happened to it. My brother handled my mother's estate, and I don't know if any of that is left or not. But my brother passed 3 years ago, and apparently he didn't pay the rent on the storage thing, so some of that stuff went, and I don't know if it was in there or not. None of his guns were, that's for sure. Yeah, I wish I did have some. I have pictures of it. This is quinacridone red, and this is Mission paint.
You favor one brand of paints over another?
No.
That was a gift.
I paint in acrylic as well. When I paint in acrylics, by far golden is the best for me. I don't use anything else. I use all of them, liquids, squeegee, hard, soft, whatever. All of them are good. But when it comes to watercolors, a lot of good. Like this is Utrecht. It's good. This is Cheap Joe's, which is made by, what is it?
American Journey is the name.
Yeah, that's the name of their brand, but it's made by, who's the guy who killed himself? Shot himself in the head?
Simmons.
Huh?
Nicholas Simmons.
Yeah, Nicholas. He used to endorse that paint. What was it, Shiva or? Anyway, that's who makes this paint. This wash that I'm using is M. Graham, and it's honey based. It's honey binder. And this stuff is Mission. So I'm going to, since I use that green, I think I'm going to use some of this, this particular American Journey is Andrews turquoise. Don Andrews. He does wonderful watercolors. Does everyone know who he is? Isn't he from Florida?
So would you say that you start by just random shapes, and then you, as you see images appearing on your paper, do you start to get inspired or to go a certain direction or certain?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, that's the idea. I just start seeing design patterns or something, and then they may end up whatever. I wanted to bring the ones that I painted in the workshop, but they're not in anything, and so. But right now, I like both of those that I did in the workshop, and I still like some of those. Is there a kitchen back there?
There's something going on.
Are they in the kitchen?
Oh, yeah, there's a kitchen.
Need more water?
No, salt. They have any rubbing alcohol back there or any vodka or anything? Oh, it's a church. Is salt? Is there any salt back there? I'm sorry, I didn't.
I have rubbing alcohol in my watercolor case in the cart. How bad do you want it?
Pretty bad.
Okay. I have salt. I have salt. I have kosher salt and maybe table salt.
Table salt. The kosher salt requires thicker and more water to make it work well, more pigment, and takes longer to dry, and we're on time here. I am, right? Otherwise, I do like kosher salt. It's good stuff. I mean, it's thicker, it's bigger, and makes bigger, chunkier, coarser grained. Pardon?
Locked up.
Sheila went out to get it.
Could you tell me who Andrews is again?
What's that?
Could you tell me who Andrews is in relation to the American journey? You mentioned a name, Andrews?
Don Andrews?
Don Andrews, yes.
He's a watercolor artist.
He's a what?
He's a watercolor artist.
Don.
Andrews, nice looking fellow.
Irish dancers.
So one of the most important principles that I think is most important is something that's called contrast. And contrast most often is defined by many as being light and dark, contrast and value. But contrast is really a principle that can be applied to every element. And that's every single principle, whether it's gradation or rhythm, unity, harmony, can all be applied to every single element. And contrast is no exception. So it's simply, if you have more than one element, if you have more than one color, you have contrast in color, right? If you have more than one line thickness, you have contrast in line. So it applies to every element. And I think it's one of the most important principles to have that contrast. And the way Edgar Whitney defines contrast is, Sally, how does Edgar Whitney define contrast? Conflict. Because you have more than one element and they're in conflict with one another. And how do you resolve that conflict? Guess? Anyone?
Put them together.
Dominance. So if you have a multitude of one element, a variety of one element, a contrast of one element, a conflict in one element, what makes your painting better is one of those dominates the other. So in color, you don't want a wishy-washy color temperature, You either want it hot or cold, right? It's more dynamic if it's hot with cool accents. Does that make sense? So these are the things I think about, even though you may think I'm painting like a monkey or an elephant. I'm thinking of these things. And if you do this so often, they become what I call second nature. In other words, you don't have to think about them as much when you're working. That's intuitive, right? Second nature, is that intuitive? I mean, someone define intuitive. What is it?
Instinct.
Is that the company that owns TurboTax now? Oh, that's Intuit. I wonder how far away her car was. Oh, da 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 da. Here she comes to save the day. Oh.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much.
Rubbing alcohol, table salt, kosher salt, coarse.
Oh, wow. Thank you. All right.
That's okay. I can refill all of those, it's fine.
I won't need all of that, but thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I normally don't have to travel from one area to another to do the work that's usually in the same place, you know?
All right.
I was thinking if it got too hot in here, I could just take my shirt off because I have a t-shirt on, but I have the mic attached to my shirts.
It is warm.
Let me know if I'm going to hit my head on that. This is alcohol, right? Not enough. No garbage? I guess, yeah, thank you.
Do you ever start a painting in one direction and then realize you want to turn it sideways or upside down because that's how it should be?
It varies. Usually I don't do any turning until later on. I'm just putting marks down now and color elements. I've never used these two colors in combination before. Thanks. I'm not sure I'm going to like this Don Andrews turquoise. Or, yeah, it looks kind of opaque, but well. So I'm consciously trying to avoid just doing a massive area without any thinking about it. I'm doing a little thinking, so I want to leave little areas that are still red, some of that are mixed. And I'm glazing a little bit soon on this because the red is still kind of wet.
You need clean water, just yell.
No, it doesn't like.
What's that?
Carol says you don't like clean water.
I despise clean water. You know, so Thomas Kincaid called himself, or someone called him the master of light, right? So someone in San Diego, when I was doing a workshop, dubbed me the master of mud. And you know, the water, I don't think, at least with what I'm doing, doesn't get that dirty. I'm by no means a purist.
So do you ever use alcohol ink or acrylic ink?
I don't use any alcohol inks.
Is it safe to say that you don't paint tight?
Not that I never have. I mean, I've been painting since I was 4 years old. So I went through a lot of phases, you know, photorealistic and I know there's a painting hanging in my bathroom, the master bath over the toilet. It was painted in 1976, and I really like looking at that painting. It reminds me of where I came from and possibly where I'm headed. It's I remember I wanted to paint like Raphael Sawyer. Does anyone know who he is? He had two brothers that were painters as well, but he painted figures. They were exquisite, but this wasn't figures. It was just the way he applied the paint and the way he toned the canvas. This is a pair of high-top Chucks and tube socks, a chair, and a can of Coors. Oh, and a sweatshirt hanging on the chair. So, and it's kind of tight. I mean, you can see the little eyelets and the shoelaces, and but yeah, when I painted photorealistically, I would go out and take pictures of things that I thought were cool. Now I think they're kind of stupid, but in watercolor,
So that phase passed.
it did, you know. As you know, I think things do. I think all good artists change. I mean, you can see change in their work. But look at Picasso, how his work changed. Even Andrew Wyeth. Here's something I asked my class today. Andrew Wyeth, what's his most famous painting? Christina's World. That's Museum of Modern Art. How much do you think they paid Andrew Wyeth for that painting?
What year was it?
Huh?
How long ago?
He painted that in what, 48 or 9? What? $3,000. When you think of the appreciation on that painting, I mean, what do you think it's worth now? So, are you all familiar with Chuck Close? He died, what, 2 years ago? He did huge, huge paintings, very realistic paintings. But as he progressed in his painting and style, he still had a similar desire to depict realism, but the way he approached it and the way he did it was totally different than the way he started out. There were thousands of little bitty paintings in his big painting. When they're all together, they would form a very realistic portrait. So he was a tight painter, you know? Tighter than a bull's ass in fly time. Is that a Southern thing? I guess so. I'm from Arizona, you know, ranchers. Third generation. First family.
I met him twice.
Chuck Close?
Wyatt.
Oh, Wyeth. Nice. Where, in Pennsylvania or
I met him at
Chad's Ford?
and I told him who I was, and he was amazed at my name. And then I was at a show in Washington, and I saw him across the room, and I went over to talk to him. And I said, I know you don't remember me. He said, who can forget a name like your name?
Todd.
And I got his autograph.
Nice.
I had no paper, and this was a Winslow Home show, and I said, well, we'll just use one of the
Catalogs?
things that they hand out. He said, no, that's my favorite painter. And his son Nicholas was there, and he signed the name on Nicholas's card.
Wow.
He was a nice man.
Interesting family of artists.
Brother-in-law, his father, still alive.
Jamie, Henrietta.
Jamie didn't paint like his dad at all.
No. So, before you leave and before I leave, be sure to come up here and take a look at it. Here. Can you see it in the mirror? What are they doing? Lessons over there? Or what is it?
Scottish dancing
Class? Club? They're probably learning or reciting or something. Okay. So I've got a bunch of elements down here. Line, shape, value, color, texture. What else?
Yeah, and balance.
Balance is a principle.
Okay.
You can apply balance to every element. So some might say, well, that's good, that's abstract expression, it's finished. But no, I need to do more. Although I do like some of the stuff that's going on here, I, number one, have to do this demo and what I do, so I have to keep going because I haven't even got to the gouache yet. So this is a pretty simple color palette, and you actually see a multitude of colors because of the glazing of the turquoise over the red. And so I'm going to make a neutral color right now using the two colors that I've already used. And that will invoke the principle of, yes. And why is that? I'm making a third color, or a muted gray, out of colors that exist in the painting already. And whether or not you realize it, subconsciously your eyes associate those colors with the other colors. Unity. Because all of those colors are throughout the painting.
They look like they belong all in the same environment.
Yeah. And they exist throughout. Oh, I don't know if I have enough pigment there, maybe not.
So when you're all finished with that, what do you, seal your painting? Seal with wax or varnish?
What?
What do you do if you put a finish over top? Because these kind of look like they have a shimmer. Plastic color.
It's a plastic sleeve from a company in Canada. I get those. I don't seal or varnish any of my work, although many do. I don't. It gives me the willies, you know. It's like watercolor on Yupo, you know. It's fine, but if you sneeze on it, boy, it's going to be a bunch of texture and nothing you can do about it. So, I'm not going to use this. Yes, just that's all I use is titanium white gouache. I have other gouaches, but when you mix titanium white gouache with watercolor, it becomes gouache.
So you're making the color. You're making wash by putting titanium white watercolor?
Yeah.
What's gouache?
It's wash.
Titanium white gouache.
This is titanium white gouache, M-gram.
And you're saying when you mix those with the watercolors, it makes the watercolors into a gouache?
Yes. It's no longer transparent.
Right.
It's gouache. It's got chalk in it now.
Okay. So you're making tinted gouache.
Or you could say I'm tinting the watercolor with gouache. But it's gouache in the end. This is leaning to the cool side, and that's okay. So this is still wet over here, so you can see how it's picking it up.
What do you like about gouache? I've never been able to use it.
It's opaque.
Well, that's what I was gonna say, is the opaqueness. The only way that I use it is thin as a veil.
So use it with a lot of water. I use you can see how thick I've made it because I want it to cover up. I want it to be opaque.
I probably would use gel.
Yeah, well, gesso is plastic. You know, gesso will.
With color in it.
What's that?
Gesso with color in it.
Well, you can add any color to gesso, and you know that's what I do. When I paint with acrylic, I don't use acrylic white. I use gesso.
Oh, gouache bites me. So what's your goal with the tinted gouache?
Pardon?
What is your goal right now? Are you covering up pieces of the watercolor you don't care for, or are you just making a new layer of shapes and lines?
I'm kind of letting what I put down dictate what I do next, and so on and so forth. And trying to beat the buzzer before the shock collar goes off. It's difficult to do this, to compose on the fly. When you do little thumbnails and value studies and all this stuff for planning paintings, it's actually easier, but it's not as fun. In my mind. Okay. So, what I'm going to do now is concentrate on picking up more of the color that's underneath. So I'm thinning this out a little bit. And we'll actually are we close to the airport? Anyone ever been to San Diego Watercolor Society's gallery?
Right in the airport.
It's right at the end of the runway. It's kind of hard to talk over that.
They had to change the flight plan.
Usually, sometime at this point, we usually take a 5-minute break.
Do I usually what?
We usually take a 5-minute break, let people get a snack or a drink. But up to you.
You can have
Wanna
some
take a
coffee,
break?
I mentioned.
You have any scotch? No, I'm good. Thanks.
We can take a break.
What's that?
Do you mind if we stand up and move around a little bit?
No, be my guest.
I like it.
Thank you. It's not done yet. There's still time to ruin it.
Okay. The little write-up they had for you in our newspaper,
Oh, really?
the idea that you, different times in your life, you're painting different things,
Really?
whatever they,
The local paper?
no, our
Oh, your newsletter. Yeah, yeah, I saw.
Man, like blinked and it turned it yellow.
That's what you get for blinking.
To drink.
Oh, thanks. No scotch?
A little.
Pardon? Don Andrews, Cheap Joe's. Pardon me?
I love that green that you use.
The minty green?
Well, it's got enough blue in it that it's not really mint.
Yeah.
Have you ever used liquid charcoal?
Yes.
Did you like it?
Yes.
I did a whole series with it.
Really?
And now I'm going to start trying to put it in the basic on here.
It's
It's a good black.
yeah, it's dangerous black. Because it's dangerous black because it's such high contrast.
Yeah.
I mean, it's dense.
Maybe I'll use some gouache on it.
Gray it down.
Gouache fights me.
Really?
I never used it, and the way I use it now is just thin. It's veils. If I want to veil something.
Milky? Milky? Yeah.
But sometimes when it dries, I'll put another glaze over the top of it, so it doesn't look too milky. I like this. You had a cat on the couch at one time. That's how you know me, because I make remarks about your work.
I know you do. Almost all of them.
I hope I'm not being offensive. That's a gorgeous color.
It looks so much richer when you're here than on the screen. It kind of washes it out a bit.
Leave you alone for just a few minutes and there's a different painting.
Yeah,
Are you sure that's the same one you were looking at?
Oh.
What are you using now? Is that chalk?
It's a craft decor chalk writer.
Okay. Is it dry or liquid?
What?
Is it dry or liquid?
It's
Is it like liquid?
it's viscous, so it's more like a grease pencil. Doesn't feel like chalk to me, but that's what it's called.
Is it like water soluble though?
I don't know. I'm using it mostly on top, so I don't care. But yeah, I think it is water soluble. Maybe it says that. Dry erase boards, windows, glass, mirrors. Glass, that's an indicator right there. It's probably a grease pencil.
What do you think?
It's all right. Yeah, I've done all I'm going to do. So there you go. So you should probably come up and look at it too. So I don't, the screen is a little bit different. They always are. No screen is calibrated the same as any other screen in the world. So
Do you ever leave the white of the paper like we do with watercolor?
I do, and there's some in this one. Very little, but there is a little bit, and I do. There's quite a bit of white left in these paintings.
Oh, yeah.
So, yes, I do. As, save the whites.
Very good one.
So, questions?
Easier said than done.
What time is it?
It's way early. You have time for a whole nother one.
I'm taking a break.
Oh, he's taking a
We
break.
got 40 minutes, or you can let us go early. Whatever.
But you don't have to fill it if you don't want to.
What's that?
If you're really tired, you don't have to keep it.
I'll answer questions. I could keep doing stuff, but. So,
When you work intuitively, are you surrounding yourself with all sorts of colors? And I see you've got brushes, you've got pens, all sorts of materials around you. You just kind of pick them randomly as you go along? Or this intuitive process, all of the things that are around you, the brushes, the colors, the paints, are you just picking them up randomly?
No, not at the end. I was kind of in the beginning. I can't do that and make any sense out of anything and do a demo for someone randomly picking up tools and color and stuff. So I have to have a little bit of sense to it. So I started making marks with that pen. Those were random. I made a lot of them. I made marks with the wax, the resist. And then I started adding color. I made a few marks with the pencils, and most of that is obscured. This is the white of the paper right there. This is the white of the paper right here. I started with, that's why I was doing the chalk marks that kind of continued it. Wherever you see the resist, it's the white of the paper. Any baseball fans in here? Huh? Hey, the Diamondbacks swept the Dodgers. And they're the only team in MLB history to hit 4 home runs in 1 inning. Really? They're undefeated in the postseason so far.
What was the lousy pitcher
The Dodger pitcher,
that allowed 4 home runs?
I can't think of his name. I can see him. He looked pretty sick.
Well, he made the record book.
In a bad way. So the Bills have lost 2 games. What's up with that? Huh? They lost to the. They lost to the Jets. You know, I wish we had Josh Allen as the quarterback. I'll say that much. What? I know that.
Question,
Yeah.
when you know when you're done?
When someone buys it, hey, that's the truth.
So what are you using, what's your tool right now, Stanley?
What's that?
What do you have in your hand, what are you using? Is that a chalk?
For the 22nd time, it is a craft decor chalk writer.
Is it dry?
Is it what?
Is it dry?
Who's talking?
Is it dry?
Sally, pay attention. It's viscous. So it feels kind of like a grease pencil. It doesn't feel like chalk at all, but it's called a chalk writer, and there's nothing I can do about that. It was given to me. I got 3 or 4 of them from a student when I was in Florida. And so I'm using it. Any other questions?
Do you ever use ink at this point?
I do sometimes when I will go back in with the pen when it's thoroughly dry, completely dry, and do little things. And when you say ink, this is what I'm talking about. This is the only ink I use. These are
So it's a figure.
Looks like a hefty baseball pitcher.
a what?
It looks like a hefty baseball pitcher that's ready to let one rip.
This.
Could be a softball or
If it's a southpaw, he's looking away from us.
well then, southpaw's left-handed.
Pardon?
Southpaw's left-handed, isn't
Yeah, that would make him looking away from us. Left hand. That's a right hand. This is backwards. Here, come up and look at it.
That's what I'm saying, he's not a southpaw. He's
Oh, he is a southpaw though, where he's looking away from us.
Oh, because this is reversed up there. Okay, gotcha.
I don't think it is.
I don't know, I don't understand where he's looking away from us if he's a southpaw.
If you see what I see, do you see what I see? Never mind. I mean, So I was a sponger for a while. Does anyone know what a sponger does?
In what field?
Lithography?
Sponge plates?
I sponged Bavarian limestone. It had to have a sheen on it that was uniform and throughout, because you know how lithography works, right? It's that oil and water don't mix. So the image is drawn on the stone with a litho crayon, and the ink, the litho crayon where it's been drawn on is prepared. There's different ways to do that. But that will accept the ink. And where it's wet, it won't accept the ink. So I have to keep that stone sponged in between pulls, and they roll the ink on, put the paper down, pull it through the press, put another one on, put it back through the press. But that's what a sponger does. I work for 2 Tamarind master printers. That's in New Mexico. I think it's New Mexico State University, Tamarind. Anyone ever heard of Tamarind?
I know Cameron chutney. Cameron chutney at the Indian restaurant, which I love. Is Cameron
Original hand-pulled lithographs are, they're an art form, They have been for centuries.
Did you work at Tamarind? Did you do any work at Tamarind?
No, I worked for 2 Tamarind master printers that had a workshop in Scottsdale, Arizona.
I was at Tamarind, and a lot of the big, kind of Indian people that are artists
Yeah,
was doing some
yeah, they had a big press. We did some big stones, and believe me, I had to grind those stones, if anyone knows what that is. Yeah. So I've been doing art stuff for a long time, and I love it. I hope I'm growing. And
What do you do with those big brushes?
those big brushes?
Great big brushes.
Well, I used some of them. I didn't use the biggest brush. I didn't want to freak anyone out. I used it today, though, in the workshop. I forgot to use the graphite, but I use that too. Water soluble, good stuff.
That painting you have with the black square in it, over there. I was trying to get that into a painting,
Oh, that's collage.
and I didn't know how to do it. And I tried tissue paper imprinting.
It's a laser print. It's a black and white laser of one of those sketches that I do in the small books.
I dimmed black and used
A what?
a hockey brush.
Great. Pardon me? Toss it over here.
I'd like to hear more about how you,
What?
I would like to hear more about how you created it, how you,
This is collage.
okay.
This is acrylic and collage. Is that plastic wrap a problem?
No.
Okay. So some of this is Yupo. It's glued. The base is, I think it's 300-pound art, I think. Pretty sure. There's a piece of Yupo right here. There's another piece of Yupo right here. And this Yupo was already painted on with acrylic. It was a disastrous painting that no one purchased. And it ends up with this kind of stuff. Can you see this bubble here? I kind of like it. Gives it more 3 dimensions, you know. Is this the black you're referring to, Todd? This black?
So these, how did you do that? What is it? Tell me about that.
This is a laser print for the 22nd time.
How about 23? Maybe I'll get it.
This is a laser print of one of those small sketches I do.
Okay.
A laser, a black and white laser, and it was a color thing. And it's been modified some and scraped around, but it doesn't look like it originally did. This is some kind of material that Kathleen Mooney in Michigan gave me, and I love it because it really, it's so transparent. You can see the colors underneath, but it's really good stuff. The gray, I don't know what I did to mix that, but this was an old paint. This was actually part of a monoprint, this little section right here. I don't throw anything away. I have tons and tons of monoprints that I'm going to paint on or sign in, not number, but sign. I need to get around to doing that.
What adhesive do you use?
Pardon?
What adhesive did you use?
It varies, but most of the time it's matte medium. Back when I was a starving artist, I used Elmer's glue.
Does it make your paper ripple?
You know, anything will make the paper ripple, but you can cure that.
Rubber cement doesn't.
Rubber cement.
I love that.
Rubber cement, that's frisket. I was a graphic artist for a long time, so I know what rubber cement is, and it beats the heck out of waxers, especially in Arizona. So what else did you want to know about this, Carol? Pardon?
Just tell me. I guess you told me everything I need to know.
It's more geometric than most of my stuff. You know, most of my stuff is mostly organic, with hints of geometry.
I have a question. Do you find that you are in a space now where you like to, it seems like you like to combine the transparent watercolor with opaque areas?
Yeah,
So
I like that contrast between vibrant, flat, dull, you know, luminous.
Okay.
I like that contrast. I do a similar thing in when I'm painting with acrylics on larger pieces. I will thin the acrylic out, and it's more transparent. You can see the white of the substrate coming through. And then I'll use gray with lots of gesso, and gesso will flatten it out just like the gouache does the watercolor. Because gesso is chalk. And unlike this greasy chalk, gesso is not. It's just plasticized chalk with polymers and yeah, this I did it in July. I did a class in Michigan, collage on paper, acrylic and collage on paper, and I did this before that class, so I would remember how to do it. I really prefer working on large canvas or board. Someone asked me today, you know, what size do you prefer? Well, I have one that's 60 by 72 inches in my studio right now. Or, I'm sorry, it's 72 by 60 inches. It's 72 inches deep, 60 inches wide. But if you're working in Photoshop, reverse that. The width always comes first in Photoshop. Whatever. So I really like doing that. It's more expressive. I mean, if you look at, you know, the paintings that in galleries and the big galleries and the good galleries, they're all big. I mean, they're mostly big paintings. And I don't know, it's a different movement. It's a different expression. When I'm painting that large, I'm using my entire body to paint. Here, or with the little sketches that I do, I'm using my wrist. Here, I'm using my arms and elbows and whatnot. So it's a different gesture. It's slight, but it is, it's still me, you know. It's still me making the marks I do, and I can't tell you what I'm thinking about as I'm doing them because it's like rapid fire thoughts and things that all at once going on, and towards the end of the painting, it has to come together somehow.
When you make that large, you do it flat? Or are you,
What's that?
are you do it flat?
No, it's against the wall. I do 36 by 36. What? Please, get it out of here. Thanks, Betty. I do 36 by 36 I'll work on a table with, because I can handle that, you know, move it around, and it's easier than rotating it on the wall. But anything bigger than that, it's on the wall. And those, you know, I've got a pile of those around because they're harder to sell than these. But I just got a commission from a friend. And it's funny, you know, I'd send a newsletter out. Some of you may subscribe. And I had one issue where I bitched and complained about, well, people unsubscribe from my newsletter. And that, you know, I understand what it is. Because I capture a lot of them through my education platform, Thinkific. They just sign up or do the freebie. I got their email. So they get my newsletter. But I was talking about unsubscribes, and even though, you know, it's someone you know unsubscribed, and you go, and if they give a reason like, not interested anymore, okay. So I'm thinking all this stuff, and I wrote this piece. Anyone in here get my newsletter? Yes. Who? Did you read that, Carol?
I don't read that, just look at the pictures.
So, yeah, I just look at the pictures. Playboy, I just read the articles. But we talked about that, okay? I mean, they had the best literature. John Cheever. Slaughterhouse-Five was first published in Playboy magazine. Kurt Vonnegut, anyone read Kurt Vonnegut? Yes. Slaughterhouse-Five. You know, how about Ribald Classics? So you guys didn't read Playboys, you actually just looked at them, right? So Brad Holland illustrated the Ribald Classics. Brad Holland is a really, really good illustrator. Very familiar style if you know it. But my point about the newsletter, unsubscribes I don't mind. But it's funny that after I wrote this bit on unsubscribes and how much it hurts, a really good friend of mine unsubscribed. He's taken my classes, you know, and I got to thinking, well, maybe it was his wife who did it. I wasn't going to ask him. But not 2 weeks later, he commissioned me to do a piece for his new house. a large piece. And I said, he asked me, how much would that be? And I said, well, I charge by the square inch. And did some figures and told him, give him a rough estimate. And he didn't blink an eye. So it's unsubscribe all you want, And I can do what I want. He doesn't, he's not telling me what colors to use or what color the sofa is, or any of that stuff. So when I get those commissions, that's the only kind I get, and I like those. I don't do other commissions. Can you paint Fido? Yeah, I'll paint Fido, but you may not like what he looks like. So here he is right here.
I have a question. So, if we went on your website, would we see your different periods where you changed up your approach or your?
If you go through all the paintings, you'll see that because they're not dated,
Okay.
but they are in chronological order. However, also in my website, there's something called drawings, and there's two classifications. There's colored drawings or colored sketches, I think they're called, what I called them then. I'm constantly thinking of new things to call things. But those are dated, and those start in 2017. But if you just look at the black and white drawings, they go back to 2010. And you can see a change. And pretty soon I'm gonna get a whole, I've been around doing this so long, I used to have to do slides. Does anyone remember doing slides? Oh yeah. What a hassle that was. Getting the photos made and then having to get the slides right and submit slides and writing all the information on the slides. And so I have a bunch of old slides of old work that I want to digitize and start cataloging some of my stuff. I ran across something on eBay, original Stan Kurth, and I'm going, oh God, $150. It's this little painting I did, I think in the early 80s.
Do you want to hear a really good story? I had a painting that was sold at the gallery in Cincinnati, and a woman went out west, and I can't remember, I think it was Arizona, and when she died, they auctioned it, and one person, now this was a great big painting, a wisteria, because I had a cottage in the Outer Banks, and wisteria grew all over the place. Anyway, that painting, I think, I can't remember exactly what it sold for. That man bought that great big painting for $5.
Good story?
And he called me, and I think he was fishing to see how much I paid that I sold my paintings for now, so that he could resell that painting at my prices now.
By buying that at an estate sale or auction, he's actually devalued the painting if he paid that much for it, because those are recorded. And that's how they base a lot of sales, Now, if it would have been at Christie's and sold for, then it would have been, yeah, sure, but you don't want to get hooked in the estate sale thing. What you can do is privately have someone have an estate sale and have someone pay, $10,000 for your painting, which you give back to them, and then it's recorded. I'm sorry. Never mind that I said that. You know what? I sold these for $225 each. And it cost me a lot to make them. I'm not making a whole bunch. The big ones I do make more money, but I don't sell as many either.
Most of the galleries take 50% now. So, you figure your work, your time and everything. I figure I make about
Yeah, somewhat, but I'm having fun, whatever.
I love to paint, so.
Me too. So, you know, does anyone know who Frank Francis is?
Yes.
Carol does. Anyone else know who Frank Francis is?
We had him as a Zoom demonstrator.
Yeah. He has some health issues right now because his cancer came back, and it's from he got cancer from the carcinogens in the pigment because he didn't used to wear gloves. But anyway, he's not doing well. My roommate, my sophomore year in college at Northern Arizona University, his name was Ed Francis. And I went to Ed was a golfer, and he left NAU because they quit the golf program, but he was from Montrose, Colorado. And I went to an AWA meeting one time because Frank Francis was doing a demo. And what made me think of it is he sells his 22 by 30 paintings for $250. At least he did then. This was not too many years ago. But he sells a ton of them. And he paints them pretty quick if you've ever seen him paint. Anyway, he's getting up there, setting up for the demo. And I had to ask him. I went up and I said, Frank, do you have a brother named Ed? Because Francis is not a common name. And he said, yeah, he's sitting right over there. I went over and went, Ed! And he didn't look any different. He still looked like the golf pro that he really was. He won the Southwest PGA, I think, 10 years after we graduated, or I graduated. But he looked good. And it was really fun to see him because I hadn't seen him since college, since the stupid days.
Did you ever teach anything at Spring Maid?
Who?
Spring Maid. It's near Myrtle Beach.
Spring Maid? It doesn't happen anymore.
No,
Yeah.
closed it up. But I took a lot of workshops there, and I did meet Don.
Andrews?
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people did Spring Maid.
That was a wonderful place.
I think back in the day, Elaine Daly Birnbaum even did Spring Maid. Did Robbie Laird? Robbie Laird?
I don't remember.
I'll be at Canoga this coming March.
I have to go home.
Say it again.
So do I. But it's a long ways off.
Thank you for,
Pardon?
thank you.
Thanks. Pleasure.